Do you have a teenager or a young adult child who is experiencing sudden change or an unexpected shift in their life?
Well, I'm Erik.
I'm Emily.
And we have accidentally become uncertainty experts. We've spent a good chunk of our lives living in sailboats, in vans, and traveling around the world. We live in New York City with our 5 kids, and they've traveled with us until now. They're off on their own, some of them, and some of them are still here with us. But right now we're going through some big changes, and our kids are going through big changes. Emily's going to tell you about those, and we're going to tell you some things that we think might be helpful if you're in a similar situation.
So our oldest daughter was scheduled to graduate next month, April 2020. But as people look back at this video, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, 2020!" And of course, her graduation has been canceled. So that was a massive shift. She's not even going to school for the last month. It's all just like sitting in her student apartment and doing stuff online, and not really sort of the feeling that she had been building to for these last many years. And that is a shift. And the other one I'm thinking of is this chain. We made this chain to count down the days until our second daughter would be coming home from Japan, where she's serving as a volunteer missionary. And because of the coronavirus pandemic, we've just learned that this chain is actually now only this long. And that was a massive change. It wasn't expected. She was just told one day, "Hey, you need to pack up your bags and clean up your apartment, and we're await your itinerary. You're flying home."
The State Department travel warning had something to do with that, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. And so our kids are experiencing change. I mean, we are, but today we just want to talk about how, as parents, we can help our older kids who are having these what feel like really high stakes changes and shifts and disappointments that they're facing.
I guess just to highlight a couple of other examples, we know about young adults who, because of this, it's impacted their college year, their graduation. Young professionals have lost jobs, and also we know people who are getting married. They were planning to get married this summer, and they had receptions planned, and then all of a sudden, because of this, they just scooted up their wedding. They got married. In one case, it was just the parents of the groom or the bride were the only ones there, and nobody from the groom's side could take it
because they weren't from this country.
So yeah, they needed to get anyway. And so whether it's weddings, jobs, school, money, people's portfolios are blown up. People are going through big change, and so we're just going to talk about how we can help. I think the young adults specifically in our lives that are really reeling from things that certainly unsettle us, but are going to impact even harder and bigger in their lives because they're just earlier on in their process.
Yeah, these are some of their first big high stakes things. So one of the first things that I think is really important is to celebrate our kids and to find ways to make it feel like the special occasion and to let them know, hey, this big party didn't happen, but I see your accomplishment and I want to celebrate you. In our case, that's going to look like, big signs that we make when our kids come home. There's not going to be a huge crowd. There's not going to be a huge party.
But there's no crowds.
There's going to be a huge sign, and I'll probably make special food, and I'll ask people to send their congratulations digitally, or we'll have a special project. That's going to be the prerogative of your parental imagination, and your kid, but celebrating them in a way that your family celebrates is still going to be so important. We're not going to be able to count on some larger structure or organization to provide that experience for our kids. That's going to be something that we get to do for them.
Yeah, no commencement celebrations, no wedding receptions.
I might give a commencement speech. That would actually be right up my alley.
That would be a dream come true for you.
Yes, that could be fun.
Okay, the other thing is listen. We know that when our daughter comes home from Japan and when our daughter wraps up with college, they're just going to have a head full of stories and their whole lives that they want to process and talk about and think through, because now their future has just kind of blown up as well, and all the expectations that they had for jobs and work and moving on to the next chapter of their lives, it was already going to be tumultuous for them, and then it just went 10x on what they were expecting. And so, and our daughter coming home from Japan, we know that she's had a year and a half of experiences that she wants to share with us, and she's going to have to talk and talk and talk.
Quarantine!
And so I think our job as parents and loved ones is to just listen, and just trust that these stories are going to come out gradually over time, and something is going to prompt a memory, and I want to tell you about this person, I want to tell you about this place or this restaurant, or you should try this kind of food. It's going to be gradual and thorough, I think.
Yeah.
And so
it's going to be ongoing. I think there's going to be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, just that it's going to be a process that's going to unfold over time, and we need to give it space to happen. And hopefully, one thing we have right now is time to listen.
We don't have space, but we have time, and we'll make that time our space to listen. Yeah, I really think that's great, and it's going to be so tempting to try to. Talk about what's next, or what we're going to do for the future, or how can we maybe build something out of what looks like the rubble of our lives. And I would caution you to consider waiting a little bit.
Don't rush to the future.
Don't rush to the
future.
future.
Be in the present.
It's going to be so important to acknowledge the experiences they've just had, whether they were in a study abroad or whatever the case may be, to hear them. It's going to be really hard to move forward until they've settled their emotional feet about what just happened, especially with this sudden change. And some of those stories are going to be like how they've experienced disappointment, and it's so important to let that out. We do want to think positively and optimistically about the future, but I don't think we're going to be able to wrap our heads around it until we get a little peace about the past, and we feel like somebody understands what we've experienced through hearing our stories. There's a real dignity that you give people by letting them tell their story. So
I think, like you're saying, I think one of the best things we can do to move confidently into the future is to process what's happening now, absorb it, and feel centered, so that when we do move forward, we're not moving forward from a place of disorientation, but we feel collected.
Yeah, I think that's true. Plus, we all, at this point, none of us really know what the future holds, so why go there? No, I'm teasing. I'm sure we all have lots of ideas and are coming up with ways to pivot and things we can do. But the last thing that I want to share about that is, I guess maybe two things. One is make space for sleep. If you have a student or someone who's been abroad, they have not had enough sleep. So let them get a little bit of sleep up front, and I think find ways to encourage them to connect with others who are experiencing something similar. The nice thing about the disappointment that's happening now, the silver lining, is it's not just your kid. It's all our kids.
Nobody has to explain. You can just say
2020.
Coronavirus, COVID-19, everybody gets it.
Yeah.
That's kind of awesome.
And so, yeah.
It's kind of like saying, what happened? Oh, World War II? Yeah, I understand. Okay.
You're not the one poor sucker who couldn't figure life out. Like this, we're all getting blown sideways, and our kids are going to want to have that stability from us. So if we're like, you know what? We celebrate you. We want you to get some rest. We want to hear your stories, understand where you're coming from. We want you to connect with other people and realize that you are not alone. And once we've collected ourselves, we're going to be able to think clearly, think calmly, think smart. And then we'll talk about the future.
Ta-da!
Good luck, parents. Having a family is an adventure. It's not easy, and it's always uncertain, as we know, because we are the
accidental uncertainty experts.